Hi, everyone. It's Rebecca Snow here, owner and mentor at the Nutrition and Herbal Collective. So glad to be enjoying this amazing 70-degree weather day. And our Facebook Live today is about using herbs with clients. The nutritionists that we work with love using herbs. Herbs are an extension of food, and so many herbs can be easily incorporated into the diet and into cooking or into lifestyle. So we wanted to just explore that a little bit. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Yeah, so what I want to talk with you about today is ways to use herbs with clients, just some things to get you started, make herbs less scary, more accessible, and a lot of times using whole bulk herbs, teas, powders, cut and sifted herbs is really a very accessible way for your clients to use food as medicine. It can be a much cheaper way to use food as medicine than taking a supplement um, or a tincture. So definitely bulk teas and powders are very inexpensive way. A lot of the interns that we work with that work in free clinics, we explore the bulk herbs that can be accessed in a local grocery store close to the free clinic. So um, clients can, hop over there and buy some bulk cayenne powder or turmeric powder or buy a bitter melon gourd for diabetes or nopales. So there's a lot of traditional and modern herbs that can be accessed in this way and can really enhance the work that you're doing with clients. When I work with clients, I love giving them lists of therapeutic foods that they can incorporate, and that list would incorporate both herbs and foods. And some herbs are foods. I mean, take stinging nettles. Yes, we can brew it as a tea, but it grows in my backyard. Some people sell it at farmers markets. You can certainly, if you can brave the sting or wear gloves, you can definitely saute it and cook it the way you would spinach. So there's three ways, three kind of concepts that I want to present as far as incorporating herbs into your client's diet. And number one is just let's open up the spice cabinet and make better use of that. First off, I would say, most people, there's rarely an intern that we work with that doesn't like to cook in some form. And so most likely you have your favorites. I know I have my favorites. I mean, cinnamon and rosemary definitely top the chart of two of my favorites. So start with your favorites. As far as encouraging the use, get to know the medicinal properties of those herbs. Take cinnamon, some preliminary and, some research on improving insulin resistance. It's a wonderful aromatic herb that can enhance digestion and appetite, reduce gas and bloating, and it can be used for heavy menstrual cycles. It's a lovely herb to reduce heavy bleeding. So it can be decocted or boiled in water for that purpose. So start with your favorites, get to know them so that you can encourage the use of those as you already know how to use them because you love to cook with them already. It's an easy transition for you to recommend them to your clients. Now, what books or resources could you use to understand the therapeutic use of herbs? So I would recommend there's many good books out there. I love Mills and Bone, The Principles and Practice of Phytotherapy. If you want to dive into a technical textbook, really get a broad understanding of the use of herbs with a very comprehensive materia medica. I like Braun and Cohen's book on herbs, nutrients, and supplements because it doesn't just include a materia medica on herbs, but you also get snapshots of different nutrients that you may recommend in practice, like CoQ10, alpha-lipoic acid, etc. Those are two written resources, and if you have a membership to the Natural Medicines Comprehensive Database. You can look at their effectiveness checker, and they also do have a monograph on plants, understanding the research. So one thing to keep in mind is when you open up the spice cabinet, there's rarely an herb in the spice cabinet that doesn't have some aroma. And in general, in herbal medicine, when there's an aroma, when there are these volatile compounds, such as when you open up a jar of mint, you smell the volatile compounds. When you open up a jar of lavender, they're very potent. And that robust smell is an indication that your herb is a carminative and likely has some antimicrobial properties too. So right there and then, if you have a client with a lot of gas and bloating and digestive upset and pain, incorporating these aromatic herbs like cumin and coriander, cardamom, cinnamon, ginger into their cooking and diet, you're going to be assisting them with that complaint. And we know that color equals evidence of phytonutrients, right? The lycopene that's found in chili and tomato and paprika, and the green of the chlorophyll found in some of our green plants. These colors represent different antioxidants. So we know that when we pull some turmeric, from the cabinet to help our client figure out how to make golden milk or add a pinch to scrambled eggs, that they're going to be upping their phytonutrient intake. There is this concept of hormesis, that small amounts of harmful substances are beneficial in these small doses. Now, we don't want to give our clients harmful substances, but sometimes we do have some nervousness around using herbs because of herb-drug interactions. One of my teachers used to say, if you talk to an Italian doctor, they're not going to tell you cut out garlic from your pasta sauce when you're on Coumadin, a blood thinner. Both have blood thinning properties. There is a difference between mincing some garlic and adding it to a soup versus taking an encapsulated product. The amount you're getting per serving is much lower. So when you're using spices in cooking, 99% of the time, the dose is too small to really be significant for a drug-food interaction in most cases. Now, if you're encouraging somebody to put 10 cloves of garlic in their pasta sauce or pesto or salad dressing, then yes, that would be excessive. But if you're using spices in the general amount that they're used, then as I said, 99% of the time, the dose is too small to really be a concern. I just love that picture. So, clients love recipe inspiration. So I always, particularly just yesterday, I had a client who said she was in a food rut. And so it's about inspiring with new ideas, and spices really add to that inspiration, because particularly if a client is new to cooking, they may not like vegetables because they've never really had good tasting vegetables. I know that, my mom was a public health major and a dental hygienist, and we had steamed frozen vegetables or boiled frozen vegetables every night, no matter what. And, it was healthy. It didn't taste very good. Once I dived into cooking, it was like this whole new world exploded of possibility. So opening up that possibility is, spices play a big role in that. And I think that spice blends can be really useful. Here are some of my favorites, like herbs de Provence, garam masala, ras el hanout, Italian seasoning, curry, blends, just for roasting vegetables or adding a pinch to a sheet pan recipe, something simple like that. The second arena for incorporating herbs into a client's diet or lifestyle would be herbal teas. And if you're new to herbal medicine, you're not going to feel comfortable blending up your own tea formulation. But the cool thing is there's so many healthy, high quality, organic um, tea formulations already on the market. Here are three um, companies that I often recommend: Traditional Medicinals, Yogi, Organic India. I trust the quality. I know that when my client goes to get a box of traditional medicinals and it's a reishi or a turmeric tea, that they're already working on an extraction method, because reishi needs to be boiled 12 hours before you actually get the constituents, extracted from it. And turmeric is really fat soluble, not very water soluble, which is why people make golden milk, because you get fat from the nut milk or the dairy milk, which actually helps extract from the turmeric. So I know when people pick up a box of traditional medicinals that if it is an herb that doesn't extract well in hot water, it's going to be pre-extracted, like a solid extract in powder or crystallized, so that they're actually getting the medicine. If you steep a tea bag in water for 15 minutes and there's very little color in the cup of water, then you know you're not getting a good extraction. But herbal teas have so many benefits to our clients. I can't tell you how many times clients say they don't like drinking water. And non-caffeinated herbal teas are a wonderful supplement there, because you're getting, in the colder months, you're getting a hot cup. It gives you an opportunity for reflection, for connecting to one's medicine. It basically adds to hydration. So, having 2 cups of, and our cups these days are so big, a 12-ounce, 16-ounce cup of tea could well be close to a third or even maybe a half of somebody's additional fluid needs for that day. So just a great way to increase healthy behaviors in our clients in a more interesting format, and also an opportunity to deliver some medicine. So I put some of my favorite recommendations here. Hibiscus I love for preventing UTIs and also lowering blood pressure. I have several clients that manage their blood pressure very well with hibiscus. You do need a good dose. So 1 tea bag generally is 2 grams of herb, and hibiscus therapeutically, you would want 6 to 10 grams. So that's 3 to 5 tea bags a day. Now, again, tea bags are kind of like a gateway tea. Eventually, you might want to train your client to using a French press, getting it bulk. They'll be able to get a much more robust dose of hibiscus that way. And Tulsi, Organic India has a lovely line of Tulsi teas in many different flavors, not, with whole plants like rose and green tea mixed in with the holy basil, aka Tulsi. I love Tulsi just because it's in the mint family. It's an adaptogen. It's one of the few adaptogens that you can actually drink in a tea bag like this. And potentially benefit with prediabetes and insulin dysregulation. And because it's in the mint family and it has a nice aroma, it is carminative as well. So love Tulsi. And chamomile, I can't speak highly enough for chamomile. Our lowly chamomile, such a wonderful aromatic bitter and anti-inflammatory for upper GI and small intestine. Good kid friendly tea for fevers, muscle aches, etc., and very safe. And last but not least, my third favorite way to incorporate herbs into my clients' food is through soups and broths. And here's a picture of a broth. I just made broth this week. I love to save, some onion skins and yam peelings. When I have like some leftover parsley, I'll throw the stems of that along with a little bit of leaves and the celery tops and carrot tops and etc. Every soup or broth is an opportunity to cook some herbs in there, particularly if you're going to be boiling it for 30 minutes or longer. One thing that my husband likes to say is that soups are like teas. They're basically teas made with meats, beans, and vegetables. Same with broths. I mean, whether it's a vegetarian broth or a bone broth or a meat broth, you're basically, it's like a tea. You're boiling these foods to extract their goodness. And in traditional Chinese medicine, soups are a very classic way that tonic herbs would be added to somebody's intake through cooking them into a broth or a soup or a stew. So I think that soups and broths are an awesome opportunity to add tonic, adaptogenic, and immune supportive herbs. Here in this picture, you can maybe make out a few. The white pieces that look like, they call them tongue depressors or pressed astragalus root, is a wonderful addition to broths and soups. Like a bay leaf, they can be pulled out if it's a soup before eating. In a broth, you're going to be pulling all that out anyway, so broths do make a nice medium for adding these herbs. Dried mushrooms make a wonderful addition to broth. I always add a handful of dried shiitakes or dried maitakes or a couple of slices of reishi to any broth that I make. I also like to add a little kelp powder. I like to add some dried nettles leaf. Nettles is a wonderful source of bioavailable orthosilic acid, which is good for bone health. So for my clients who have osteopenia or osteoporosis, love to add nettles in to the broth. On the slide there, it says astrag instead of astragalus. Just a quick tip there. Ashwagandha and shatavari, maca, those are some other herbs that could also be cooked in a broth for specific health needs that you're trying to achieve with your client. So at the Nutrition and Herbal Collective, we teach about nutrition and herbs. We are helping our interns get credentialed for the CNS as well as the American Herbalist Guild. And we do like to include herbal medicine into what we do. So we have a lot of different types of group meetings. We have clinical protocol meetings, live client interviews. And when we're working through cases or clinical protocols, we like to always incorporate herbs into those discussions. We also have a Q&A on our Facebook group, so people will ask questions about cases and what herbs might be appropriate for a specific indication or situation. We also incorporate herbs into our one-on-one meetings and our case reviews that we do with our interns. Well, thank you for listening. Again, this is Rebecca Snow. You can reach me at rebecca@nutritionherbalcollective.com and have a wonderful day.